Et alors, sois bienvenue, monsieur Ernest Mbonda. Nous sommes très, très heureux de recevoir votre présence ici au sein de NéFiTs, du Núcleo de Recherche Éthique, Filosofia, Teoria Política et Social, et avec un portugais pour faire une petite présentation de votre travail. Monsieur Mbonda, professor Ernest Mbonda, professor de filosofia, de ética e trabalha com questões decoloniais, questões ligadas aos trabalhos de filosofia política, de filosofia jurídica e de decolonialismo. São os temas que ele mais trabalha, né? E a apresentação vai ser filosofia africana e Ubuntu e direitos humanos, certo? Monsieur Mbonda, merci à nouveau. La parole est avec vous, s'il vous plaît. Allons-y.
Obrigado. Yes, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Thank Hélio for inviting me to make this presentation. Thanks to all of you to be there, to be present, and to listen to me, and to discuss with me when the moment will come to discuss on some issues I want to present today. The title of my presentation is African Philosophy of Ubuntu and Human Rights. Avancez. Hélio, tu peux avancer là.
Oui, j'avance ici, mais je crois que nous sommes un petit problème parce que j'avance ici.
Mais je vois, ça va, je vois maintenant.
Ah oui, je vois?
Oui, ça va.
Vous voyez? Ah,
oui.
Ok, parfait.
Okay, so my presentation will have these different steps. First of all, I would like to define the word Ubuntu. What is Ubuntu? As introduction to my presentation. And after that, I will present Ubuntu in relation with personhood and communalism. The second step will be to show the link between Ubuntu and human rights. And we rely on the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. So I'll continue.
Oui, juste une minute. Voilà, pour nous changer.
Oui, so introduction, what is Ubuntu? I don't know if you have, if it is the first time for you, you are discovering this word Ubuntu. Is this the first time for you to discover the word Ubuntu?
No, it's not the first time.
So, what happened the first time you discover Ubuntu? According for me, the first time I saw the word Ubuntu, I went to make a search in Google. And the first thing that appeared was some computers. So I was very surprised to see computers because I knew that Ubuntu has a different meaning, a philosophical meaning. So to see computers appearing in Google, I was very surprised to to discover that. But trying to understand the link between Ubuntu and computer, I discovered that Ubuntu was also the name given to a software, a free software of the family of GNU and Linux. Free software, free access, free use of this software, Ubuntu. So that is the first information. And the second information is that I discovered that the promoter of this software was a South African named Mark Schutelwerf, a South African. And South Africa is the place where the notion of Ubuntu has been developed mostly. The philosophy of Ubuntu has been developed mostly in South Africa. So that led me to understand why the name Ubuntu has been given to a software. It is because it is the Mark Schutelwerf, the promoter of this software, is South African. He wanted to give this name symbolically, a symbolic name of Ubuntu to a software, because the idea behind this software is free access, is solidarity. So solidarity between people sharing the same software. So that was the first thing, the first idea I discovered with these pictures of computers appearing when you are looking for meaning of software at Ubuntu. Next page. Next slide.
Next.
Now, let us go to the meaning of Ubuntu as African philosophy. The meaning of Ubuntu as African philosophy. So, as you know, perhaps, maybe, there has been a huge debate on African philosophy, a huge debate concerning the existence, the nature, and the methodology of African philosophy. Some people, some authors saying that there is no African philosophy at all. There is nothing in Africa that can be called philosophy according to the meaning of this word in European knowledge, in European thought. So that was the debate. But when some African scholars try to defend the idea that there is something that can be called African philosophy, there have been many ways to define it. Many ways to define African philosophy. The first way to define African philosophy is to say that it is traditional wisdom. Traditional wisdom. Traditional wisdom you can find in the oral literature as tales, proverbs, legends, mythology, and so on. And that type of philosophy associated with traditional wisdom has been named ethno-philosophy. Because in ethno-philosophy, you try to look for ethnological data as proverbs, legends, mythologies. Those are ethnological data, and you can call this ethnological data philosophy. That is why they have been called ethno-philosophy. Another scholars try to present another signification. Some other scholars, another signification, another meaning of African philosophy, say that African philosophies are only written text. Written text. According to those scholars, there is no philosophy in oral tradition. Philosophy is only in written text. written text by contemporary African thinkers. Written text by African thinkers that had learned philosophy. They learn philosophy. They know what is philosophy. They can write some texts, African texts, and they can write those texts knowing that this is philosophy. So according to those people, there is no philosophy in oral tradition, oral literature. Philosophy is only in written text. There is a third position according to the definition of African philosophy. The third position is to say African philosophy is written text and traditional wisdom taken critically. Written text and traditional wisdom taken critically. That is my definition of African philosophy. My definition of African philosophy is to consider written texts from contemporary scholars, but also traditional wisdom. Traditional wisdom taken critically. That means you can take this proverb, you analyze proverb, and you can say that this proverb is philosophical. This proverb is not philosophical. This one is philosophical. This mythology is philosophical. This one is not philosophical. That is traditional knowledge taken critically. So if you put this together, traditional knowledge taken critically, unwritten text from contemporary African scholar, you have, according to me, African philosophy. So Ubuntu, according to me, is a part of this traditional wisdom taken critically, because Ubuntu is a traditional word. Ubuntu is a word from traditional wisdom. So the word Ubuntu can be considered as philosophy, but philosophy taken critically. That means we need to analyze the meaning of Ubuntu to see what is the philosophical dimension, what is the philosophical meaning of this word Ubuntu that belongs to traditional wisdom. So according to me, Ubuntu can be considered as a philosophy. Next slide. Are you listening to me very well? Is it okay? Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's go.
Okay. So let us go to the meaning of the word Ubuntu. What is the meaning of the word Ubuntu in Africa, in traditional Africa? So you can see, I put here the word Ubuntu, but there are many other ways to say almost the same thing according to countries and to society and to culture. It is almost the same thing. So you can have Umundu, Umuntu, Untu, Bumuntu, Yumuntu, Bomoto, Gimuntu. And in those words, there is the same radical NTU, that means human being. So traditionally, the word Ubuntu means human being. That's all, human being, a human, a person. We call it Ubuntu. This is a Ubuntu. This is a Muntu. This is a Huntu. This is a Umuntu. That means this is a human being. This is a human person. That's all. That's the meaning of this word in many countries in the south of Sahara. So you can see you can see the names of many countries: Kenya, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Congo, and so on. That is the Bantu part of Africa, and the Bantu part of Africa is the half of Africa, the south, if you can divide Africa in two parts, and the south part of Africa is the Bantu area, of Africa. So all those cultures, Bantu area of Africa, they use the same word, almost the same word, Ubuntu, and so on, to call the human person, to call human being, Ubuntu. That is the origin of this word and the meaning, the first meaning of the word Ubuntu. Next slide. Now, I have presented the word Ubuntu. Now I am going to speak about the concept of Ubuntu. The concept. Because there is a difference between a simple word and a concept. A simple word is a word you can use in language or ordinary language. But a concept is a specialized meaning you can find in some discipline, philosophy, science, and so on. That is a concept. So I want to show how Ubuntu, which is a word you can find in traditional languages of Africa, how this word became a concept, a philosophical concept. And I quote here Gilles Deleuze that says, to philosophize is to invent concepts. To philosophize is to invent concepts. And usually philosophers create concepts by two ways. There are two ways to, at least two ways to create concept. You can take an existing word and you redefine it as a philosophical concept. And the second way is to create a word that does not exist. In French, they call it neologism, a neologism. So you create a word that does not exist. If you are not comfortable with existing word, you can create your word and to create a very new concept. In this case, we have a existing word, Ubuntu, meaning human being. And it is this word, meaning human being, that's been redefined. This word has been redefined by philosophers to become a philosophical concept. And what is the process of redefining this word? The philosophers that redefine the word Ubuntu are mostly South African philosophers. South Africa. They began by with these two South African proverbs. The first one is Moto Kemoto Kabato Babang. It is a Soto language, meaning a person is a person through other person. That's the first proverb. A person is a person through other persons. And the second proverb, Umuntu Gumuntu Gabantu. It is a Xhosa and Zulu language, meaning I am because we are. That are the two proverbs. Next slide. And it is from these two proverbs that South Africans have reconceptualized the word Ubuntu. And with this redefinition of the word, philosophical redefinition of this word Ubuntu, you have two philosophical meanings of this word Ubuntu. The first meaning of Ubuntu is to say Ubuntu is a quality of a person, a moral quality of a person. That's the first meaning, moral quality. So when you say this person has a Ubuntu, that means this person is a good person. To have Ubuntu is to be a good person. To have Ubuntu is to have, for example, a capacity for empathy. To have Ubuntu is to have ability to forgive. Is to have ability to share with other persons, with other persons. It is a type of moral conscience, a divine voice that speaks in us and to push us to be good person, to push us to have good behaviors. That is why Desmond Tutu, I quote here, say, when we want to praise someone, we say, you Ubuntu. That means, hey, he or she has Ubuntu. So to have Ubuntu is to be a good person. Second meaning. Next slide. The second meaning of Ubuntu is, I can say, an ontological identity. It is not moral quality as in the first meaning, because the first meaning is moral quality. Here it is a ontological identity. And this ontological identity is only to say we are all connected together. It is interconnectedness between all human beings, between all the members of a community, between all human beings. So you are the first level of connectedness is a community, for example. That is the first level, our community. All the members of a community are connected together. So there is a type of Ubuntu link, I can say. Ubuntu. There is Ubuntu because they are connected in the first level of community. And we can extend this area of connectedness and to see the human being, the humanity, the whole humanity. So we can say that all humanity is connected. All the members of the humanity is connected. There is a type of universal community of people, universal community of people that are connected, that are naturally connected, that are ontologically connected. So it is an ontological reality. Next slide. I can quote here. Desmond Tutu is an Anglican bishop that played a very important role in South Africa in the definition of Ubuntu at that time. And he says that Ubuntu means that in a real sense, even the supporters of apartheid, the apartheid is this racist system that had been put in place in South Africa at that time, and that made many victims. So the Ubuntu was a type of philosophy they put in place to try to heal, to care, to repair, to repair this situation, and to connect again together people that have been divided by this racist system. So the Ubuntu says, Ubuntu means that in a real sense, even the supporters of apartheid were victims of the vicious system which they implemented and which they supported so enthusiastically. Our humanity was intertwined. The humanity of the perpetrator of apartheid's atrocities was caught up and bound up in that of his victim, whether he liked it or not. In the process of dehumanizing another, in inflicting untold harm and suffering, the perpetrator was inexorably being dehumanized as well. So the idea behind this is to say that all the members of humanity are so connected that when you do something to other person, when, for example, you are violent against a person, you yourself, you are a victim of this violence. You are also a victim of this violence because we are connected. So next slide. So that to summarize, that are the two meanings of Ubuntu. That means moral quality and interconnectedness. But I can say that if I have to put an hierarchy between these two meanings, I will say the the first and most important meaning is moral meaning, the moral meaning of Ubuntu. Because even when you are ontological connected as members of community, you need to work for that. You need to make some effort to be in connection before that. You have to make an effort to make sure that you don't harm other people. You are not violent. To maintain this connectedness, to maintain this connection between others, you need to behave morally so that this connection is also possible. It's always possible. You have to work for that. And this work, this effort is a moral effort to make sure that connection is always there. So let me move now to the second part. I want to make a stop in this part, Ubuntu, personal and community. So it is to say something about the relation between individual and community in the framework of Ubuntu. In the framework of Ubuntu, the debate is to ask if what is more important, community or individual. That is the debate. Next slide. So it is a very central debate in African philosophy in general, not only with Ubuntu. So we have these two questions. What is the most important dimension of personality, individual or communal? And where to locate moral value, individual property or communal property? Next. So we have two answers to this question. Two answers. The first answer is the mainstream conception of Ubuntu, the dominant conception of Ubuntu. According to the dominant conception of Ubuntu, community is more important than individual. Community is more important than individual. And we have this quotation from this African philosopher named John Beatty. He is a Kenyan philosopher. So he says that from these words from Descartes, Descartes said, "I think, therefore I exist." That is the Cartesian definition of human subject. John Beatty say we have to say instead that I am because you are. I am because you are. And since you are, therefore I am. Since you are, therefore I am. So that is, according to it, the meaning of humanity, the community meaning of humanity. I am because you are. So you don't focus on individual, because in this quotation of Descartes, I think, therefore I exist. You have the same I twice in this quotation. I, it is the individual. I think, therefore I exist. So in this definition, in this Cartesian definition, you don't have any link with other people. So John Beatty thinks that you have to replace this individualistic definition of human being by a communitarian definition, saying that I am because you are. And since you are, therefore I am. I am because I belong. So the sense of community is more important. That exceeds the oneself and individual. Next slide. Yes, it is the same idea of this mainstream conception of community, saying that the welfare of the community is more important. It's the standpoint to see the welfare of the individual. The welfare of individual depends on that of the community. So you have to make sure that community has a welfare. and after you can think of individuals. Community first, that is to say. Next slide. This is yes, it is the same author, John Beatty, in his book African Religions and Philosophy, and you can say this the same question, the place of individual in community, and the answer is the individual can only exist corporately in traditional life. The individual exists only corporately with in link with other people. And the second answer is the community must create. This is very strong quotation. The community must create or produce the individual physically, morally, socially. Create individual physically. As you know, in some traditional society, you have some type of marks on individual, on the faces of some individual. That is the way a community can put a type of mark, a mark of identity on the body. So you can carry the mark of your identity even on your body, a mark of you are belonging to a particular community. So that is how a community can put a mark of his identity on individual, and of course morally, because the morality is learned, is what you learn in your community, in your society. The meaning of what is good, what is bad, what is just, what is unjust. The meaning of all those values and all those concepts, moral concepts, you learn it from your community, and you behave according to this concept, according to this value. You are learned from your community. And so there are many type of rituals to incorporate an individual to a community. So next slide. It is another example of this mainstream conception of Ubuntu. You have a former political leader, Julius Nyerere. Julius Nyerere has been a president of Tanzania the years 70s, during the years 70s. And he put in place a type of theory called a theory of Ujamaa. So Ujamaa is a political implementation of Ubuntu. Ujamaa, a political implementation of Ubuntu. Ujamaa is a Swahili word that means community, that means family and community. And from this concept of family, community, Julius Nyerere tried to implement in his country, in Tanzania, a type of African socialism. African socialism. African socialism, that means there is accumulation of personal wealth. It is an antisocial behavior. It is not allowed to a person to make accumulation of wealth, because that is antisocial. So you cannot talk about prosperity of an individual. You have to work for the prosperity of community. All members of the community have to work for that as members of family, this family called Ujamaa. Next. Next, this is the name of another African philosopher, Nigerian African philosopher, Ifeanyi Menkiti, another promoter of this mainstream conception of Ubuntu. So you can go to the next slide. So that was the first conception of Ubuntu, priority to the community. You have another conception of Ubuntu that has been called moderate communitarianism. Moderate communitarianism. the scholar, the philosophers, as Kwame Gyeke, for example, who is the defender, the promoter of this model communitarian, he thinks that the mainstream conception of Ubuntu communitarianism is very radical, because within this framework, you cannot recognize individuality. You don't recognize autonomy. You don't recognize individual rights. So that is the problem with the mainstream conception of Ubuntu, mainstream conception of community. So in place of that, you have to how to arrange to look for another conception, a moderate communitarianism. That means you have to redefine human person, saying, for example, that human person is communitarian by nature and also rational, autonomous, capable of virtue, and so on. So you have the articulation of the two dimensions of the person, not only communitarian, but at the same time, rational, autonomous. There is no contradiction between these two dimensions. There is no contradiction. They can articulate these two definitions. So it is possible to find a balance between individual and communities. It is possible to include individual autonomy. You can include individual rights in the framework of the communitarianism, in the framework of Ubuntu. That is possible, according to Kwame Gyeke, according to this moderate communitarianism. So I can still ask if it is a very difficult challenge. So maybe you know this debate with North American philosophers, Michael Walzer, Michael Sandel, Alasdair MacIntyre, and so on. Those philosophers call communitarianism. There is a challenge to justify this communitarian approach of rights, and to make sure that there is no sacrifice of individuality, autonomy, individual person. So the challenge still exists, but according to these authors, Kwame Gyeke, and that is also my own position, it is possible to articulate these two dimensions of human person, communitarian approach and individual approach. Next. I present you an example of this type of link between individual and community. I don't know if you have heard about this charter, the Charter of Kurukan Fuga. The Charter of Kurukan Fuga, it is the 12th century after Christ in Mali. In Mali, the country called today Mali. So it is at that place, Sunjata Keita, the king of that time, present this charter. And UNESCO has considered this charter as one of the oldest constitution of the world, constitution of protection of rights, of human rights, this Kurukan Fuga Charter. Even in the framework of Ubuntu, even in the communitarianism framework, you can have this charter where there is a defense of personal life, personal rights, individual rights. As you can see here in this quotation, all human life is life. It is true that a life appears before another life, but no life is older, more respectable than another life, just as a life is not superior to another life. So in this quotation, what is different here is the idea of equality between human persons, equality of lives. No life is more important than another life. And the second one, everyone now has their own person. Everyone is free to act while respecting the prohibitions of the laws of their homeland. So in this quotation, also you have the idea of personality, individuality, freedom, free to act, but associated with the duty to respect the prohibitions, the duty to respect the law of the community. So that is the communal part of this text. The communal part is to say that you have to respect the laws, you have to respect the traditions, you have to respect the prohibition of the community. But you are a person, you are free to act, and so on. So this is a type of articulation into even in those traditional wisdom texts, as this of Kurikan Fuga Charter. Next slide. So now let us move more straight to the issue of human rights. I recall the questions, the 3 questions. The first question is the primacy of the individual or the community, and that is we were talking about. So we have the answers to this first question. The second question, primacy of rights or duties. And the third question, what about the African Charter on Human and People's Rights? So next slide. So as we have discussed the first question, let us move directly to the second question. Primacy of rights or duties. That is always a debate according to Ubuntu. And we can guess if we take the first meaning of Ubuntu, the mainstream meaning of Ubuntu, where community is more important than individual. If we take the first meaning, that means you have primacy of duties on right. When you consider community as more important than individual, you consider duties as more important than right. When you consider individuals are more important than community, you consider that rights are more important than duty. So that is the general explanation of this question of primacy of rights or duty. So according to Ubuntu, the question is there. What is first? What is more important? Is it possible to base individual rights on Ubuntu? That is the question. The question remains. Next slide, please. Here again, you have many answers. The first one is to say that the idea of Ubuntu implies a morality of duties. Morality of duties towards others. That is the mainstream conception. Duties first. Community first, duties first. Because as we are connected to other person, we have duty towards other person. So the idea of interconnection means duty towards other person. And another definition we present, to be a good man in Ubuntu, that means to consider primarily my duties towards others. That is the meaning of being a good man. A good person behave good towards other person. The duty of respecting other person. The duty to forgive other person. The duty of solidarity towards other person. So you have this idea of duty related to the meaning, the 2 meanings of Ubuntu, interconnection and moral meaning, duty towards other person. So Ubuntu implies obligations and duty beyond the rights of the individuals. That means duty first. Next slide. The second answer is to say that Ubuntu can be the basis of individual rights, despite the importance given to the community. So that is the idea. The basis of individual rights, despite the importance given to the community. Because in the Ubuntu framework, you have the idea of dignity. Dignity, and dignity is a very central element of Ubuntu. The idea of respect of dignity. So it is not because you put emphasis on community that you ignore the idea or the value of dignity related to each person. So if we rely on this only on this concept of dignity, that means duty and right have the same. There is a balance between them. There is a balance between duties and rights if we rely on the concept of dignity. Next slide. The next one. This is those quotation. So, but the idea, what is the advantage of Ubuntu here according to us now? Because as we said, in the idea of Ubuntu, the notion of communities remain very important. The notion of community remain very important. And my position is that the framework of Ubuntu is a very good framework to defend some type of right. Let me repeat it. According to me, the framework of Ubuntu communitarianism, is a better framework to defend some type of rights. A better framework. For example, the right to justice. When you have been harmed by someone, by your neighbor and some other person, you need justice. You need justice. You have right to justice. And you can benefit from this right if and only if your community take this right very seriously. We need to have a community for whom justice is a very important value. We need that. If the value of justice is not very important for the community, individual will not have justice when they are in a very problematic situations. So that is the first example. The second example is the right to socio-economic assets. How can you have socio-economic assets if you live in a community who don't share, who don't try to make sure that everyone have something to live a very important, a very acceptable life, a life in relation with dignity. So we need a community for whom this type of life is very important, to make sure that every person will have the socio-economic asset necessary for that. You cannot have the sense of community if you are very, very poor, for example. You cannot have the sense of community if you are marginalized because of your poverty. You cannot have the sense of community if you are excluded, if you are disqualified because of your poverty. So even to have the sense of community, we need a type of minimum assets, minimum socio-economic assets. And the community have to make sure that each individual, each member of the community have this minimum socio-economic asset to make sure that community exists. So that is my position on this debate. I am talking about a duty of the community towards an individual. And another argument is to say that it is not so bad to put a type of emphasis on duty in relation to right. Because for your right to be respected, you need my duty to respect your right. Your rights cannot be respected if I don't have the duty to respect your right. If I don't feel myself obliged to respect your right. So there is the type of, I can say, dialectic, a dialectic of right and duty, to say that for rights to be respected, you need that another people have the duty to respect it. So it is not bad to focus on duty, because when you focus on duty, you make sure that the rights of people are respected, because this duties means the duty to respect the right of everyone. It is to say that there is no contradiction between duty and right. The right needs duty. For right to be implemented, we need duty. Duty of everyone to respect this right. So next slide. So just a word concerning, because I have I can see the time running. Just a word concerning this African Charter on Human and People Rights. As you know, there are some documents, international documents, and you have also regional documents. You have Universal Declaration and so on, European Convention, so on. But in Africa, we have also a charter that is called African Charter on Human and People Rights. And this charter has been put in place to introduce some African values in this document on rights. So there is a type of African inspiration of this right, of this document. Next slide. Next. So even in this document, you can see the same mixture, articulation between individual and community. So you have some articles on individual rights, and you have another articles on people rights, for example, on group rights or community rights. For example, you can have from articles 2 to 17, those articles proclaim rights that are explicitly addressed to individuals. When they say every person, any person, all people, all citizens have the right to. That is the individualistic part of this document. And excuse me. And you also have some article concerning collective rights, family rights, for example. Family is very important, and people have the duty to respect family. That's it. Family has some rights as community, and people have duty to respect family, to respect the community and to respect. So this articulation, you have it in this charter. Just to say that even in this charter, there is no opposition between individual and community. There is an articulation put in the same document. Next. Next, again, I have explained this. Yes, combination of rights and duty. I have explained it in this charter. I just mentioned this article where you see this combination between rights and duty. Next. So I wanted to conclude with this question, Ubuntu and the debate of on the universality of human rights, because as you see, Ubuntu is a particular type of concession of human rights. But we know that we are discussing about universality of human rights. What is the meaning of universality of rights? If Ubuntu rights is Ubuntu conception of right in contradiction with universality of human rights? Who has the universality of human rights? Who define the universality of human rights? Who have the right to say that this is universal? Who has this right to say that? What is the origin of those documents called Universal Declaration of Human Rights, for example? What is the origin? Who has written this document? Is this document entitled to be applied to all people in the world without taking into consideration those particular conceptions of rights you have in particular philosophies of indigenous people, of traditional societies in Africa, and so on? So that is a type of question I can ask at the end of this presentation of Ubuntu conception of human rights. So let me stop here and thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah.